Coach, after getting a chance to go back and look at film and all that, reviewing and everything from Saturday, what was kind of the biggest thing that stood out to you?
Just missed opportunities. I mean, a lot of drop balls, a lot of missed assignments. Thought they were out physical than us the majority of the game. I just didn't think we handled the conditions well. I don't think we handled the game well. I don't think we really handled the week of preparation well. They probably outdid everything, to be honest with you. We probably got exactly what we deserved on Saturday.
Coach, looking back on this game versus the first two, the tight ends didn't play as big a factor in this game. Was that by a game? Was that by how you schemed for the game, or did they do something to take the tight ends away?
Well, I mean, I disagree with what you said about tight ends not being involved. I mean, they're involved in a lot of ways that you might not see. So you only see when they get the ball. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. With as far as the catches, yes.
Yeah.
Two
so
catches.
I see it as far as the whole play. You know, I mean, I think that there's going to be times where the tight ends catch balls, and there's going to be times where they don't, just like everybody else. I mean, the scheme of the defense dictates a lot of that. But I mean, I thought Julian played pretty well. You know, I disagree with the assessment of they wasn't involved in the game. I think he was very involved in the game. He didn't catch many balls. Not a lot of balls went his way. But I disagree with the fact that he wasn't involved in the game. You know, I mean, I think that there's going to be games where he gets more balls. And, I mean, I think that we got to do a good job of getting him involved that way. But he played probably, I don't know, he played 50-something snaps in the game. So, I mean, he did well. He was physical. I thought Julian's a very, very dependable. You know what you're going to get out of him, you know. And so, I mean, you know, ultimately we got to do a better job of getting him involved in the pass game. But there's going to be games where, you know, there's going to be games where kids catch 10 balls and games where kids catch 1. I mean, that's football. You know, you watch across every league, NFL, college, everywhere. The best players don't always catch 20 balls, you know. And so there's times where, like when we had Kevin, we struggled with, he caught like 2 balls 2 games in a row. Well, defenses try to take things away too, you know. So, I mean, you know, but I do think the kid played well. And I think he just didn't get a lot of targets, which, I mean, we can obviously do things to get him targeted a little more.
Over the last couple games, Nick's thrown a couple interceptions. What can you do this week to kind of ensure that you limit down turnovers for the next
What can I do to ensure it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you know, not throw it to the other team. But, I mean, ultimately he's got to trust the reads, trust the progression. You know, the 2 picks he threw Saturday, one was just a bad throw. I mean, he'll even tell you, you know, it was just a bad throw. I mean, he's got to throw it out there to the guy and threw it behind and kind of low. And so, and the other one, he was trying to get the ball to T-Man right there, and number 7 just flashed right in front. And so that one, that's really just bad luck, really. I mean, the guy made a good play. But the other one was just a very poorly thrown ball, you know. So, I mean, but I mean, there were other times where, you know, you got to trust your progression, go through your reads, and get the ball to the open guy, you know. So, I mean, I just got to keep doing what we're doing. I mean, it's a process, no doubt. And so,
to kind of piggyback off that, Nick didn't throw his 6th interception of the year until October 17th last year. So how much of it is bad luck or just not, you know, the same chemistry maybe?
I think a little bit of probably both. I mean, if you look at the interceptions overall till now, I mean, half of them were on just one-on-one 50-50 balls, you know. Well, either we got to make a play and they make a play. You know, I mean, those are ones that really frustrate you more than anything. And so the couple ones that are bad decisions or, you know, whatever, I think that there is an element of, you know, the majority of the production at receiver is gone, right, from last year, because people can only play 4 years. You wish you could have them for 10, but that's just the rules of NCAA. So, you know, we got to, you know, I thought DJ played really well Saturday, you know, and I thought that I don't know how many balls he caught, 4 or 5. He was targeted probably 12 times or whatever. So obviously we got to target him more, and he's a guy that's, you know what you're going to get from that guy too. And so I do think that there's an element of, you know, offense is about cohesion. You know, it's about a group playing together. And a lot of these guys wasn't here last year. And so to sit here and say that that isn't a factor in it, I would be lying to you. You know, we just got to, and it's ultimately with quarterback and receivers, it's trust. You know, everybody's got to just relax and be in the right place.
Coach, could you talk a little bit about how you evaluated the offensive line play this week?
I thought our pass protection was really well. I really did. They did a lot of things twist-wise. They were very active up front. You know, and I think Troy's got a really good defense. And I think their D coordinator did a really good job. His plan coming into the game was a good plan as far as coverage-wise and as far as up front. I thought our overall protection, I was very pleased. You know, I think our overall run blocking, I think we need to be more physical. You know, and I thought we were more physical the first 2 weeks. I thought we took a step back Saturday. I think that there were times in the run game where we had a weak box and we could have been able to run it better, and we should have been able to run it better, and we have been able to run it better, and we didn't. And so, you know, if that answers your question,
Sure.
I think
Thank you.
protection-wise, I don't think we got sacked one time, and so and we got hit a few times, but we didn't get sacked. And so, with what they were doing up front, that was really good because protection was an issue going into the game as far not an issue, but a concern, you know. And so we did a great job protecting the quarterback. We got to be more physical, and it's, you know, that's a double-edged sword really, because when defenses are moving around a lot, you know, it's hard to be physical, because to be physical you got to get on people and drive them, you know. And so I mean they were doing a lot of moving around.
UTEP has gave up a lot more points to Army than Texas. So have you figured out what their defense does?
Well, have you do you know what Army does offensively?
Sort of, yeah.
What do you know about Army?
Well, I imagine they keep the ball on the ground.
Well, they run the option. They run like veer option. And anybody that's watched an option team, and I mean, I've been on the other side of I'm not defensively, but in a game trying to play against an option team. When they get rolling, they get rolling. You know, and I mean, it's just the way it is. You can watch Georgia Tech, you can watch Navy, you know, Army is the same way. So, I mean, you know, ultimately in that game, you know, I mean, I don't know how much we can get out of that game because formationally and all that, it's just so different. And you go into those games defensively with a whole different mentality. And so, but ultimately just watching the game, trying to see what took place, you know, because they did score 66 points. I think Army just got it rolling, you know, and when an option team gets it rolling, they're hard to stop, you know. And they got a couple things that went their way, you know, they had the special teams mishap and stuff like that accounted for a few of the points. But I think Army offensively, they just got them on their heels and played well, you know. And an option team, you know, you got to play defensively. It's more about, you know, assignment and being in the right place and this and that. Obviously, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I know I've watched them. I've watched them put up big numbers and big yards on good defenses for a long time, you know.
What are we looking at with UTEP then defensively? Normally, you know, they're lining up against the spread or whatnot.
Yeah, they're not much different up front than Kentucky schematically. You know, they play. I don't say all the time, but the majority of their front's an Okie front, which is, you know, nose guard, and they got 4 eyes. Those guys are a little bit wider at times. But schematically, if I had to say, out of the 3 games we've played, they're probably a little bit more like Kentucky, you know, as far as how they line up. You know, they do a little more movement. You know, Kentucky was more of the big guys stayed in the gap, you know. These guys tend to do a little more movement than they did, but if you took a snapshot of them before the snap, they'd probably look a little bit more like Kentucky than the other teams we played.
Coming off the adversity of a loss, how do you expect your guys on offense to embrace the challenge of showing that you guys are better than what you showed on Saturday?
Well, I mean, it's not hard to see on film that we had an opportunity to have a really big day. You know, if you look at it just by the naked eye, I mean, we had way too many drops, but even more so troubling, 5 of those came on 3rd down. And so we were really bad on 3rd down. Let's say we were 5 of 18, right? Well, 5 plus 5 is 10, you know, and those keep drives going. So instead of, you know, we went out there, we went 3 and out, 2 drives in a row. And both of those drives, we had chances to convert the 3rd down, and we didn't. Well, I mean, that takes you off the field, puts them on the field. You know, I mean, that kills drives. And so not only does drops hurt you, drops on 3rd downs kill you, because now you got to get off the field, right? And so, I mean, it's not hard to see when you watch tape that, you know, make routine plays. That's all we ask you to do. Don't do anything superhuman. And so if we make routine plays, we have another great day offensively. But the fact that we didn't, I mean, we had a very average day. or you could say below average day, especially if you look at the critical numbers, like third downs, for instance, which is, in my opinion, that's where third downs and red zone are the numbers that keeps drives going and gets the ball in the end zone. And so to have 5 drops on third down, I mean, that's 5 of 18 instead of 10 of 18. That's the difference in the game.
Coach, I asked the same question to Coach Hobson. With an early season loss like this, especially with it not being a conference game, is there the possibility of turning it into a positive and kind of looking at it as a little bit of a wake-up call for the team?
Yeah, I think absolutely it is. I mean, I think that, half the teams that played Saturday are in the same situation we are, And so it's just and I told our guys, and Coach Hobson told our guys, for the last 2 weeks, that be careful patting yourself on the back when you win a game, because the fall is pretty quick, I mean, all you got to do is have a very average performance, and then we're back, to square one, right? And so, I mean, the bottom line is that I think absolutely we can pinpoint things throughout the week. We can pinpoint things, glaring things that led up to this, right? And so, I mean, it's just about refocusing now and, handling adversity and success the same way, really. I mean, I didn't think we did a very good job handling success, to be honest with you. I thought we won 2 games, and some people walked around here like they had things figured out, like this is easy. Well, it's not easy, and bottom line is that we won 2 games, and our opponents are going to get tougher. That was the best team we played yet. You can say what you want to, but that was the best team we played yet. And I thought the Savannah State game, we didn't play very good offensively. I thought we took a little bit of step back. I didn't think that step back showed its face because obviously we won the game. But I told our guys all week that if we would have played a better team, we probably would have struggled that game. And that week, Saturday, we played a better team, and guess what? Popped its ugly face up.
Did you give an assessment on Staggers and how he's come along?
I thought Staggers played really well Saturday. I think again, there's so many different moving parts in that receiver room that we're really pushing and searching for guys to step up and become a dependable role player, and I think that's important with Nick too, because when you're sitting here dealing with a bunch of new faces, just the overall chemistry of that group needs to take place, and so I think Staggs is a kid, in my opinion, that over the course of 3 weeks, Saturday, I mean, he showed toughness out there. He made some plays. I think you're going to continue seeing that with him, to be honest with you. I think he's a tough player. I think the more and more he reps and makes plays, the more he's going to feel like that he's a top playmaker.
What did you think of how Nick played? I mean, it looked at times like he was off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Throws were short or whatnot. But then it's also sometimes the receiver's not running the right route, or he's too short or too long or whatever.
The great thing about Nick is that there's only one person he looks at after the game, and that's himself, And it's the same way. I mean, I talked to him after the game, and basically I told him, I said, look, man, I said, I got to put you in a better position. And he looked at me and said, Coach, I got to play better, And that's what you want. Ultimately, that said it all to me. I was done with it. Now, watching the film, I mean, I think that, I think Nick, at times, feels like he has to do too much. If I want to be completely honest with you. I mean, he needs to relax and just trust the people around him, trust the scheme, trust your reads, and just play ball. Don't try to be Superman. You can't win the game by yourself. You can't lose the game by yourself. Just go out there and play ball. And I think that, and that's hard to do when you want to win so bad and you want to play well so bad, and so I think that overall, I mean, it wasn't his best performance by any stretch, but if you look at everything together and if you factor in drops and this and that, he still has a really good game. He made a couple decisions in the game that were out of the ordinary for him, I would say, but look, that's going to happen. I mean, I don't expect a kid to play perfect. I didn't call a perfect game. And so, I mean, I don't expect them to do something that I don't do, I expect people to overcome adversity, and I think that he did a good job with that because, to me, as poor as we played, we had a chance at the end to drive down and win the game, and we had a play on the 9-yard line with 2 seconds left, And so, I mean, we make that play, and then, you know, we win the game. We didn't make the play, we lose the game. And so we didn't play our best, but, you know, to his credit, you know, it never affected him, you know. He kept attacking, he kept doing the right things, and ultimately he put our team in a situation where we could win the game, and we just didn't.
You talked about the 5 drops on third down. Do you have a number that for the game, and how does the number of drops against Troy compare to the first game?
We had 8 drops total, and so, I mean, you know, I don't remember a whole lot of drops. I'm trying to remember the first 2 games, which, I mean, I can't sit here and remember specifically drops being an issue, you know. And so it's funny how, if you look at, just statistically speaking, when Troy played Clemson and when Troy played us, offensively it was almost exactly the same for the two offenses that were playing them. We had about the same number of drops, you know. We had about the same production, you know. It was just it was kind of eerie to look at both of them, you know. And I mean, I say that because of this. I think at some point you got to give Troy credit, you know. They do a good job of being physical. When you do catch it, they pop you, and so all that factors in. And so, I mean, I think that at some point you got to give those guys credit. They did a good job. They played hard, but ultimately we got to clean that up, you know. And I mean, I don't think that ultimately, to answer your question, I don't think it was a huge problem the first 2 games. I think that offensively, with new guys, with a little bit inexperienced guys, overall we didn't handle that situation very well. We didn't handle the conditions very well. We didn't handle the situation very well, and ultimately that's on us as coaches to get our kids to focus in and do better under adverse conditions.
Anything else? Coach, thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.